So I'm Nick Baumgarten. I'm a staff writer of the New Yorker magazine. I have the good fortune to be here today with Neil Young. I'm not going to do one of those big introductions where I tell you about his entire recording career.
Oh, good.
But I will say that Neil and I have talked before. I don't even know if Neil is aware of this. A few years ago, I did a Talk of the Town piece about Neil and about a film that he was making. You were making with Jonathan Demme.
Oh yeah.
And we did an interview via Skype. And at the time, at least to me, probably to both of us, Skype was kind of newfangled and a little bit sort of strange. So we did this interview over Skype about the process of making a concert film. And at one point we were talking about the things that you want in a concert film or that you don't want in a concert film. And you said, at one point, about the cameras going on to the audience, you said, "We hate the fucking audience."
We're not showing them. We won't show you guys either. So relax.
But in the piece, the context was we're talking about a film, but of course, in the coming days on the blogs or whatever, people are sort of complaining and saying, "Oh yeah, you fuck the audience? Okay, well I'm not going to pay to come see your concerts anymore." And other people saying, "Well, if you read the piece, it makes sense." But anyway, we don't hate the fucking audience. We don't entirely trust the audience though, and for that reason. I think today, instead of doing a Q&A afterwards, there were some cards handed out, and I got some questions that I think I put in my pocket, although I might have left them somewhere. So we'll get to those eventually. But the occasion of your being here, I think, among other things, is a book, right?
Yeah.
A new book.
Yeah, we got a book, and
here's the new book.
And we do want you to know that we took great care to have quite a wide variety of questions from all of you that we chose specifically for our own advantage.
You haven't seen the questions.
I got that from my manager who told me about that.
He told you.
Just to say something like that people might laugh.
Yeah. Professional. So you've written another book. It's your second book. What's harder, writing a book or making an album?
Well, they're both so much fun, and it doesn't matter. Neither one's hard. They're easy. They really are. It's just a good way to spend time. I write on airplanes. I love airplanes for that reason, especially the long flights. Intercontinental flights are great for writing. Sometimes I can get up to 10,000 words out of a good flight across the continent and maybe to another, across to Europe or something. I can get quite a few words out, and it's good. The biggest challenge is charging the computer. I enjoy the process. There's no real work involved. If I start working, I quit. That's what I first reaction. Whatever I'm working at isn't going to be very good.
So the only impediment to great literature is battery power.
Pretty well in this 21st century that we're living in.
I found that to be true too. It's very easy to write. I find it a little easier than making albums, personally.
Well, it's easy. It's easy to write because it's fun to write. Things that are fun are easy. Even if you're writing about a subject that is unpleasant, there's something about it that frees you up when you finally get it said the way you feel like it should be said that time, at that moment, and you can move on from it. So I like to write and then just move on. I don't like to read it again and see how it was or anything. I just like to keep on.
You don't revise?
Not until I get it completely done.
Right.
And I have help. And the help comes in, top up my mess, and compartmentalize my thoughts, and but basically it stays almost the same.
Yeah, you don't need to know how the sausage is made, but how helpful is the help?
They're very helpful, extremely helpful. I'm really grateful for the help that I get in the end, and guidance to try to organize things. It's nice to have another perspective on things. I'm not defensive. My first book, I was pretty defensive right away. I was just, don't screw with me, you know. I wrote this.
The editors.
But pretty soon, it all went away. I like the help, and it's a good perspective. And Mr. Rosenthal was extremely helpful. So I'm happy.
David Rosenthal.
David, well, I call him Mr. Rosenthal.
Yeah, it's publishing, it's very...
It's a lot of authority.
Dignified. Yeah. I was sort of surprised reading it at the specificity of your memory. You know, the incidents in the distant past, you know, childhood incidents, which actually I can understand remembering those, but stuff from the 60s and 70s.
Stuff from the 90s and 2000s and that's hard.
That's the problem, yeah.
That's it.
But the 60s and 70s, I would imagine, would be difficult. But did you ever keep a diary or take notes or anything like that? I mean, what was your
I'm
source?
voracious when it comes to keeping track of what I do. Not so much notes, but I have files of everything, the dates and everything. I have people that keep track of what I'm creating and the files and the things that recordings I've made or things that I've done and appearances that I've done and everything, because I'm a collector. You've seen collectors, they're a weird group, and I'm one of them. And so I collect this stuff that I make, because I figured, well, someday maybe it'll be helpful to know where it is and what it is and when it happened. I'm a chronological collector, so it makes it easy for me to go back, and then the songs always open up my memory. So everything's built up from the songs, and when I find a song in my history somewhere, I always identify a, you know, like a specific car that I might have purchased as a reward for finishing an album or recording a song that was particularly difficult, or some sort of task that was difficult for me to accomplish. I reward myself with all kinds of, you know, material things.
Because no one else will.
No, no. Well, some people have, but I like to do it myself because I know what I want. I like to find things and buy them and take them home. Personal shopper.
Yeah, you said, I think in this book, you said, I think I have a disease.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was when I bought something that there was no reason for me to buy it at all. I realized when I got it home, I said, what the hell did I buy? This is a real piece of shit. I bought this thing and it's no good, and I don't even like it. But I did like the hood ornament. And the whole car cost $500, but it smoked like unbelievably, and it was a 1950 Packard sedan, I think, but it had this big bird hood ornament on it, and it was a very cool hood ornament. And ultimately, the hood ornament made its way to a different car, which I changed and put it on another Packard, which I thought deserved it more.
So what made you decide to write this book about the cars? I mean, you've written about cars, you've talked about cars, but to do a book that says, you know, this is about cars, to use that as conceit for writing about your life, was that?
It was a, dare I say, a vehicle. For my autobiography.
Oh, hey!
Very clever. I read that. Someone wrote that. I didn't think of that. I have to give credit to someone who wrote that somewhere. One of the first things I read about this book, someone said that. I didn't think. Brilliant. Own it. Can't take credit. Can't do it.
So what came first? The paintings of the cars? We're going to show some of those in a moment.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have any of them in any particular order, and it's going to be all screwed up.
Perfect.
You're up to it.
The first thing that happened was the story, but as I wrote the story, then I would find a picture of the car. My first idea was to have a photograph of the car that I would use. And I found these pictures, and I found where the car was, you know, I looked through the internet for pictures